All right, we are live. So for anyone tuning in today, if this is your first time tuning in, my name is Winnie. I am a therapist and a life coach, and with me I have Cartessa. So again, if you've watched our videos, you've met Cartessa, but I will give her the chance just in a moment to introduce herself. And then we also have a very special guest joining us today, and her name is Rakita. I'll also give her the opportunity to introduce herself. So let's start with Cartessa. Go ahead and take it away and introduce yourself.
Thank you, Winnie. My name is Cartessa Smith, and I am an LPC, and I'm licensed in Oklahoma and Missouri.
All right, awesome. So Rakita, go ahead and introduce yourself to us and just kind of tell us a little bit more about you and your practice and your specialty.
Okay, so my name is Rakita. I'm a licensed professional counselor in the state of Alaska and also in the state of Maine. I specialize in perinatal mental health, which is why we're here today. I'm so excited to be here, as well as sexual wellness. Let's see. I had a bunch of things I was going to say about each, but let's start off with why I decided to pair the two, I guess. Perinatal mental health, a lot of individuals who have, it's officially, I guess we know it as postpartum depression, but they have an umbrella of terms, and they all meet something called PMADS, which stands for perinatal mood, anxiety, and depression. And what that means is it covers more than just depression. If you have anxiety, if you have OCD, if you have psychosis, that is covered under that umbrella. So I decided to get into sexual health and wellness because I recognize that a lot of the women that I would talk to also had some sexual trauma in their background. And the stats also say about 80% of women with sexual trauma will experience a perinatal mood disorder.
Okay, that is very interesting. So I'm really excited about this conversation that we're going to have because I definitely know that myself personally. I've experienced some challenges postpartum, and all three of us are moms. So I know that we've probably had our own experiences as well. And so as we talk, I will definitely love to hear more about your specialties, kind of how you work with clients and like the types of clients that you see, your niches and everything like that. Before we dive into that, let us know if you're open to taking new clients, like just kind of walk us through what your process is like for taking clients and if you take insurance or not and which insurances you take. So just kind of take this moment to just tell our viewers what you do and where you've already told us what you do, but like how you work with clients. So that's what I mean by that, how you work with your clients, the types of clients that you see, like do you have an age restriction? So just kind of tell them.
So I'm a little complicated and a little complex. It was a baby toy. So I take families, but I don't take children individually.
Okay.
So for that reason, I kind of want the family to have a safe environment for their child. Instead of just dropping your child off and saying, fix them, I kind of want all of us to be in the same room together, working on a solution. So I do take individuals, adults only, and families. I also work with couples. And I do have openings for individuals, families, and couples. Age restrictions, like I said, just 18 and older.
Okay. So are you taking clients in both Alaska and Massachusetts at the moment, or?
Yes, Alaska and Maine.
Okay.
At the moment.
Or Maine, I'm sorry. Maine. Okay, awesome. What insurances do you take, if any?
Aetna and Premera Blue Cross Blue Shield.
So is that just for Alaska or for Maine as well?
For Maine as well, yes.
Okay. Awesome. Okay, so hopefully some of our viewers will be residents of Alaska and Maine, and hopefully they can reach out to you after viewing this video. I'm hoping that they do, because your services are definitely very valuable in the community. So let's kind of go ahead and get started. I don't really have a particular order of how we're going to talk about these things. I just kind of want us to have a conversation about the topics that we mentioned already. So to get that conversation going, I want to share something that happened recently, just to kind of show how I feel like discussing postpartum depression and the challenges that we have as mothers is kind of taboo. It's not something that we talk a lot about, especially within the Black community. So I know that, of course, for all mothers going through pregnancy and childhood or childbirth, that can definitely present a lot of different challenges and whatnot. But then when we look at the Black community specifically, I think because of the fact that there's just this, I don't know, this thing of, we don't ask for help, we don't show weakness, we have to be strong, that we tend to just kind of keep things inside, or keep things like within our families, and we don't reach out and ask for help. So recently I was having a conversation with someone, and I was kind of sharing about some of the challenges that I had after having my daughter, and I was talking about some of the emotional challenges and stuff. And I was kind of like, I got to a point where I just I was just bawling my eyes out, like I was crying. And after sharing that, this person was like, "You were crying because of that?" And I was like, "Yeah, I was crying because of that. Like, what do you mean? My body went through a traumatic experience. Like, I had to grow a child inside of my body, and I did not have the easiest pregnancy. And of course, after having a baby, all these different hormones just kind of flowing through our bodies trying to heal and everything like that." And I was like, I had a lot going on. Of course I cried. But I just kind of want to use this example to get us started in talking about postpartum depression. So tell us, in your research and your work with clients, what are some statistics that you can share with us as far as like the percentage of mothers who go through postpartum depression, as well as if you can kind of differentiate between what postpartum depression actually is versus baby blues, or just kind of the normal experiences that somebody goes through after childbirth. And Cartessa, feel free to jump in and ask questions and add if I'm missing anything.
Your story reminded me of something very similar. And I want the statistics to get out, though, because I want people to know. I have a feeling that they're going to be overwhelming. And so I want people to know that, because, people act like they're alone, or they might perceive that not a lot of people go through this.
Right.
So I definitely want those statistics to get out there. So I'm gonna let her describe that, and then I'll come in and I'll chime in, and I'll let you know about my similar situation.
Okay. Sounds good.
Sorry, go ahead.
So then I just want to quickly give my background. I got into perinatal mental health because I am a PMAD survivor. My husband and I were in Korea when I gave birth to my first child, and no one spoke English. We were not military. I was teaching English abroad. So I was in like a Korean hospital. Only person that spoke English was the doctor. And over in Korea, they prefer elective C-sections. And I did not want one. The doctor said from the beginning, "Oh, no, you're fine. You'll be able to have a vaginal delivery, et cetera, et cetera." Did not happen. He said he had a golf vacation already. I'm not joking about this. Set up. And he was like, textbook is, he had broke my water manually. And he said, textbook is 24 hours. And if you don't, I did not know any of that. And So that led to me having postpartum depression
Yeah.
and anxiety. So PMAS.
Yeah.
Yes.
With that.
Yes.
I can see that. That's horrific.
And I was at the time also studying. So I was doing some studying abroad while I could. I had to come back to the States to finish my master's. But I decided then and there, something has got to give. I was seeking help. No one knew how to help. I actually went to see an acupuncturist in Korea, and it was really cheap. It's like $12 there. And he whispered to me, he was like, yeah, a lot of new moms come here. Why are we whispering about that? Why are we whispering? In fact, the stats say 1 in 5 women will actually experience postpartum depression.
Wow.
1 in 5. And for men, it's 1 in 10. I don't want to forget about my men because they can also experience postpartum depression.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So here I am, scared and alone, and I love my mom, but I was talking to my mom one day because I finally found a therapist that could see me while I was overseas. And so she was like, okay. So she hung up the phone, and as soon as she hung up the phone, she texted me, and she was like, oh my God, are you also on medicine? So I got that shame for actually saying that I'm seeking help, you know? And, you know, like I said, in case my mom is watching, I love my mom. It's a stigma.
Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day. A stigma that we have to deal with. But I felt so alone at the time because there was absolutely no one I can talk to. And I don't want that for other women, especially Black women.
Yeah.
And as I dove deeper into this, the disparities for Black women are definitely worse than they are for our white counterparts.
Mm-hmm.
And that is because we have this thing called structural racism, which is the umbrella that holds medical racism. And I don't know if any of you guys have experienced trying to talk to your doctor and they ignore you or say you don't feel a certain amount of pain. That's where medical racism comes from, where I still believe in my research that Black people do not experience pain at the same level as white people to this day, 2021. Yeah.
And there's been a lot of scientific evidence that has gone into the research about how Black women have been treated when they go and seek medical advice and help and assistance. There are, I remember when Serena Williams had her baby, and she was in excruciating pain, and no one believed her, and she had to make a huge, she had to advocate for herself, but she had to make a huge, scene about the pain, and then to come to find out she had a life-threatening issue going on. If she hadn't have, she would have died. So I think that is one of the most infamous cases where you have Black women that are seeking, medical help, and we're not being taken with this persona that we have to carry on our shoulders, that we're strong and that we can deal with pain, and it's just not fair and it's not safe for us.
Yeah, and this actually brought up a question for me. So Rakita, what advice would you give to women, pregnant women, who are having difficulties accessing the medical care that they feel like they deserve, but they're not getting it? So when they're going to the clinics to see their gynecologists and the doctors, nurses, or whatever, and if they feel like they're not being heard and they're not getting that care, how can they advocate for themselves in situations like that?
Well, to not get too legal, I would definitely say you're going to have to stand up for yourself. I already know that you're carrying the burden of having this baby growing inside of you. You're tired. If a doctor tells you, well, we're not going to treat this, ask them to write that down, that they denied whatever medical treatment or therapy you're asking for in your records,
Mm-hmm.
so that it is shown that you requested and they denied, or they decided that they did not want to go through with the procedure.
Yeah, yeah, that's actually really good, really good. So Cartessa, you were gonna share your experience before we move on to the next thing.
Yes.
Before you answer that, someone says make them document everything, including if they refuse to run tests. Absolutely.
And
I think
isn't that awful that we would have to do that?
yeah.
You know, isn't that awful that we're under that systemic blanket that we can't say, you know, I'm in pain, or this doesn't feel right, or, you know, and we can't be taken seriously, you know, based on the fact, now this is empirical, based on the fact that, you know, we are Black. You know, I have clients that I see that are medical doctors. They are MDs, and they have been able to be transparent with me in session and disclose that there is that stigma out there, even though you know, because of the opioid crisis is going on, and you know, that's unfortunate, and we, you know, and that's unfortunate, and we should, you know, address that and treat that. But that's not necessarily, if you look at the numbers, and I'm a numbers girl, that's not necessarily an African American problem.
Right.
That's not necessarily the forefront. So I think that that's just so unfair, and it speaks so much. I love it, Rakita, when you said systemic, when you use the word systemic, when you were talking about mental health, because that's what it is. And that's what we have to deal with in regards to both our treatment at the hospital and our, you know, postpartum depression.
Right.
Can I like interject really quickly? Because I know a part of the reason why we have this is because of slavery. And I know people are like, oh, slavery, cognitive dissonance. In order for them to believe that we are inhumane, not human, they had to say, well, the Black body cannot feel pain. And that continues to this day.
Yeah, or the Black body can tolerate pain at a much higher level than other bodies. And it sucks. It's horrible. And I think that also affects how we ourselves, like how we view us, and our ability to ask for help, and our ability to show weakness, because this is something that our ancestors had to figure out how to do in order to cope in the world that they lived in. And just as an aside, next Saturday, I believe we're going to be talking about generational trauma. So just putting it out there, we'll be talking a lot more about how these generational issues, you know, get passed down from generation to generation and whatnot. But yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Cartessa, I am dying to hear your example of your experience.
Well, when I had my first child, I wasn't expecting to be as anxious as I was. And because I did not have the knowledge that anxiety and obsessive compulsive, like rituals, could be under the umbrella of postpartum depression, I went for quite some time just being hypersensitive to things that I perceived were dangers, but were not. So like I can give you a perfect example. We lived at the time in a 3-story townhouse, and my newborn baby was on the top floor. And I remember thinking, oh, I don't have postpartum. I'm just, you know, worried about his safety, because that's what a good mom would do, right? And I was like, I can't allow him to sleep. And this sounds silly, but this was really how my hormones were uneven, and you know, just the chemicals in my brain were causing me to have continuous irrational thoughts, and I wasn't able to identify those as irrational because these are not symptoms that I was looking for
Right.
with postpartum, right? So I was like, well, I'm going to have to go get him because I feel like a bear is going to climb up the side of the outside of the house and unlock his window, open his window, climb in his window, and you know, maul my baby while he's in his crib. So of course I can't let that happen, right? So I would go and get my baby, and then I would hold them, and then it got to the point where I wasn't focusing on time, and that's another big symptom. And so I would be proud of myself if my baby got through the night and survived. You know, it was so morbid to where I was assuming that my actions and what I had to do would ultimately be responsible for if my baby lived or died, you know? I remember staying up, and this went on for about 4 months before I was like, I need to seek help because this is not healthy and my body is deteriorating and I don't actually know what's going on. So it's not something that I can identify. But I would search things out, like irrational things, like SIDS, and just be hyper into that topic. And of course, that would make me hyper anxious and obsessive about, you know, my child. So I would have these weird rituals where, you know, he could only sleep at certain times, like when, you know, like after I've researched it, and then he would have to sleep in a certain way, and I would always have to be there to make sure, you know. So it was very difficult for me as a first-time mom. And I did not have that. And of course, as a Black woman, I'm thinking I'm killing it, you know. I'm just like, oh, I got this under control. It's not, you know what I mean? And the other Black women around me weren't able to identify it either. You know, they were like, you know, oh, you're doing great. Your mom hasn't even had to come and stay for a while. And then that's strange, you know, that I would be admired, you know, for me being able to, you know, say, oh, mom, you don't have to stay. You can go, you know. It was just a really confusing time because I thought that I was doing what I was supposed to be doing.
Right.
But I was showing severe symptoms of postpartum depression, and it was showing with anxiety.
Yeah.
And so that is what I had to learn. And once I learned, I had to like alter my behavior. I had to take medication to bring the anxiety level down, to level my chemicals so I could identify these are irrational thoughts.
Right.
And I could, you know, change my behavior. So it lasted, I want to say, about 3 or 4 months. But it was so, I think when someone was like, oh, you cried over that, I was like, in my mind, I can remember being in that position and being like, I'm killing this. I'm not, you know, there's nothing, this is fine, you know, like I'm a strong woman, I'm a veteran, and I'm a strong Black woman. I'm killing it. And I was not.
Yeah.
I was not.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that, Cartessa. I think that that's going to resonate with a lot of people. I have a question for you, Rakita, but before I ask, I want to read what Audrey commented. He said, they said, there is also so little education, it feels like, on postpartum mental health outside of the umbrella of postpartum depression. I developed antenatal depression and anxiety, and I didn't even know that it was a thing that existed, or that pregnancy itself could trigger depression and anxiety. No one ever told me.
Yes, Audrey, we are on the same page.
You are absolutely right, Audrey. And I want to use Cartessa's example and Audrey's comment to ask you, Rakita, this question. How can people differentiate between what's sort of called like normal baby blues versus actual postpartum depression? So kind of going to the comment, what kind of, I guess, I don't know, education that you can provide in the little time that we have to help people identify some of these signs?
Sure. Okay, so basically the time frame for just the baby blues, which can be like tearfulness, you're a bit moody, your appetite remains the same, but the time frame is 2 weeks, give or take.
Okay.
So if you're like a month in and you're still feeling tearful and you still have this depression, loss of wanting to even go out of the house, get out and do what you used to do, any of your hobbies, you might want to go and talk to your doctor or go ahead and schedule with a therapist because there could be something there.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to touch on what Contessa said with the postpartum OCD. I didn't even know what I had that, but I didn't know until I got certified in perinatal mental health because I didn't know there was a term, but there's a term for that. And I remember I couldn't even be at the staircase with my baby because I was like, what if something happens? What if I like trip and fall? I was like, I'm afraid. So definitely totally understand. Been there. It's scary. And a lot of women don't want to talk about it because one, they think you're going to take my kid away. I don't want you to take my kid away. And that's definitely not going to happen. That's not the case. A few other things I want to bring up really quickly because there is something called postpartum psychosis. So with that, this individual, if they do have it, first and foremost, most individuals that would possibly meet the criteria, they have a previous bipolar diagnosis. Okay, so that's first and foremost. Secondly, they are unaware that the thoughts that they are having are scary thoughts. They're thinking it's normal. But so if you're having a scary thought and you know it's scary, don't worry, okay? I still want you to go and see a professional, but you're good. Just go and see your professional.
Yeah, that is very interesting, and it makes a lot of sense. So before we went live, I was sharing that I had read some information about how women can develop psychotic episodes or manic episodes and things like that after childbirth, and this makes sense that it would stem from having a previous bipolar disorder diagnosis. So that makes a lot of sense.
Or you can be undiagnosed with bipolar, and it only takes, you only need to have one manic episode to be able to be diagnosed according to the DSM. So you cannot have any idea that you have that mental issue, and then when you have your child and the hormones change and your body's changed and like your the chemicals in your brain have changed, then your mental health is what suffers. I know that my PTSD diagnosis definitely had an effect on how I handled my irrational thoughts. Instead of looking at them as irrational, I was unable to identify that they were irrational, and instead I just wanted to combat them. Like, oh, I'll just fight this and do it, and handle it. So it's definitely your mental health, your prior mental health issues,
right,
will definitely rear their head during your post or your perinatal experience.
right.
And I can absolutely agree to that.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense for sure. So, Rakita, with your specialty, do you work with clients throughout the pregnancy experience and postpartum, or do you just focus on the postpartum experience? Like, how do you? So, if someone is watching us right now and they're thinking about reaching out for help, like how would they know you would be the best therapist for them based on what they're experiencing, I guess is what I'm asking.
So for individuals that are in the prenatal stage, and I guess also that pregnancy stage as well. I guess they've had a previous diagnosis that they already know this
Mhm.
is a problem postpartum. So that's when I would tend to see them. Now, many of women, like Cartessa said, they don't know. It hasn't come
Right.
up before. So then most of them would probably come and see me. And a lot of people don't. They are like, I'll handle it on my own. But for the few that do come out and see me, they are aware postpartum.
Okay. Okay. So, are there signs that people need to be aware of, like during the prenatal experience, that could possibly be indicators that maybe you need to seek help now during the prenatal experience versus waiting postpartum?
Okay, yeah. So definitely if you are someone that has a prior diagnosis, I would go ahead and start seeing a therapist
Okay.
immediately. Yes. Just so we can get a handle on it. Most people who are certified in perinatal mental health, they have a plan in place. You know what's going to happen. Your
Mhm.
doctor has a plan as well, so you're good to go.
Mhm.
I would say if you're someone that has had maybe seasonal affective disorder, the SAD, that depression, I would also just say come on in and just have a
Mhm.
wellness checkup with a therapist. Like, hey, I've been experiencing this. If you're someone who has dealt with sexual trauma at an early age, I will also say just go ahead and schedule to see someone as well.
Mhm. Mhm. So now that you've brought up sexual trauma, because I wanted us to get into that as well. Oh, before we do that, there's another comment. Audrey says, I have CPTSD, and I just thought at first I was symptomatic again until it got so bad I was forced to call my doctor. So this goes back to what we were talking about regarding symptoms being exacerbated postpartum and everything like that. So that's a very good point. So again, I don't think we can stress it enough. Like, you are not alone. If you're going through something right now, prenatal, postpartum, even if it's not related to pregnancy or childbirth or anything like that, if you're going through something and you're having mental health challenges and difficulties, please, 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 please reach out to someone, because this stuff is serious. Like,
It's
it is serious. So we can't stress it enough. Please reach out. Please reach out. And we're making an effort to throughout the month of May to have these conversations and to bring on different clinicians with different specialties, so you're aware of what's available in the community. And even if it's not available, even if we can't see you within your community, but at least we're kind of giving you information so you know what to look for and what to ask and the sorts of questions that you can ask when you're seeking help. So please, 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 please reach out for help if you need it.
and
And
Audrey,
so,
I want to thank. Oh, I'm sorry.
yeah.
I was just gonna
Audrey,
say,
I want to thank you for sharing, and
Mhm.
I think that you seeking that knowledge is uh, really going to help you, and it's going to help, people that watch, now I know that we can't sit here as clinicians. I wish we could and say, okay, well, you're going to have this symptom and this symptom, and when you have this symptom, go to the therapist, but we're unable to do that because it's different. It manifests differently for each woman.
Yes.
So, like Winnie was saying, if, you know, just to check in on any type of, emotional distress or, mental health uh, checkup that you want to have, we are here to, help you find out what it is and help you. If I had not gone to a therapist myself, being a licensed clinician, I would have never known these symptoms. I would never have the experience to help someone else identify these symptoms. And so I think that instead of us trying to look at it as, because I know that's what we want to do. We want to be like, okay, so what's going to happen and how we're going to do, like Rakita said, have a plan, start early. You know what I mean? Especially if you have a mental health background. I mean, these are all things, with my second pregnancy, I was all about it. It was, months before I was in preparation. So I wouldn't be in the same situation. And I think that those of us listening, just kind of be aware that your mental health matters, and no matter what, reaching out, you're going to be welcome. It's going to be a welcoming experience, at least for the three ladies, on this live right now. So
yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry, Winnie, I kind of went on a rant there.
Thanks,
I
Cartessa.
want to give out, there is a great website. It's PSI, Postpartum Support International. You can find clinicians that are certified in perinatal mental health. They also have a warm line. It's not a hotline, but a warm line where if you're feeling extremely dysregulated, you can call, they can talk to you, they can also help you. I am a coordinator for the state of Alaska. And so the warm line will send me a message and I will go out, and if I can't see you, I will find someone who is certified to see you. And that's in every state, all 50 states, and internationally as well. So it's Postpartum Support International.
That's a really great resource. Thank you for sharing that. And Audrey says, I should mention I'm a social worker who works mostly with teens in the child welfare system. I just have a passion for helping women and sometimes get the opportunity to work with pregnant teens. Hopefully what I learned here can be carried over into that. Awesome.
Yes.
Thank you so much for
your help,
sharing
Audrey.
with us. Thank you. So let's move on to sexual health and wellness. So I know, Rakita, you kind of mentioned the correlation between sexual trauma and postpartum depression. So talk to us a little bit more about that, along with what you actually do as a sex therapist. So let's get into that.
I know when I first started the course, everyone was like, why do you want to be a sex therapist? But there is so much you can do as a sex therapist. Sexual trauma, you can help couples with affairs and infidelity. If you are a poly and you want to know what polyamory is and things like that. And I really think it's also important as a Black community that we grow with our youth, because a lot of our youth they know it, they're on it. They are, what's the word I'm looking for? I can't even think of it right now. But they understand gender identity. They understand sexual identity. We are behind. And so as a sex therapist, I'm here to just affirm them. And so I also work with trans individuals who are experiencing emotional distress because no one will accept them in their community. And I'm in a small town, so that is something that plagues us. Period.
Yeah, we know. Yeah, that's awesome. So I know that you said you work with these different groups of clients and stuff, but as a sex therapist or as part of the sexual wellness piece of your work, like what exactly do you do, and how can you help clients in that manner?
Yes. So I teach men and women how to have good enough sex if they're not even having sex at all with their partners. And I also teach women how to find what works for them if they cannot masturbate vaginally, because a lot of us can't. And it's still taboo. And it's almost like, well, if your man can't do X, Y, and Z, or your partner can't do X, Y, and Z, no. That is not the case. A lot of us have trauma from our background, and we're unable to release that trauma and feel safe enough to actually experience a masturbation. Excuse me.
That is really cool. That's really cool. So I was watching Cartessa's face, and she's having like all kinds of facial expressions, and I want to hear your reaction, Cartessa. What other questions and comments do you have for Rakita? Can't hear you. You're muted.
I'm sorry. No, my children were just ran in, and I was like, oh, and so I had to mute my mic.
I am so sorry.
I don't know if you can hear them in the background.
Yeah, I can hear them. It's okay.
Anyway, there we go. So I think that when she was talking about sex as a therapist or as a clinician, I think some individuals are like, I mean, it's kind of weird. I never really encounter people that have there are in like the middle of the road. They're always either really open about their sexuality or in their sexual history, or they are, really protective of it, because of the traumatic incidents that have happened. I love to meet them where they're at, of course, when you're, because there's so much in regards to sexual health, especially with like the LGBTQIA plus community, that in regards to sexual health, I have to be very transparent about that and how important that is, and I try to do that. And then you have couples that come in, and they're, it's great that they still come in to seek that, even though they may be conservative, or like I said, like on the other kind of side of the spectrum on that. So I mean, I can't say that it's not something that I don't see often, but I do know that it is something that, I mean, sexual health and then sexual trauma are something that usually do go hand in hand.
Right.
And it also works for people who were maybe coming out of medical situations in remission for cancer or any other things like that, because most people, they no longer have that libido. So
Right.
we work with our clients on that. And this toy. And we also we work with people who might have pelvic floor, which is something people who are women or birthing persons experience once they give birth.
Yeah, and I just wanted to throw it out there and to say that just to kind of piggyback off of what Cartessa was saying. When it comes to sexual health and even like sex therapy and stuff, there is also a taboo there where like we can't talk about sex or talk about the different struggles that people have with sex and everything like that. And there are so many different factors that affect someone's ability to have sex, but then at the same time, sex is not just about having sex with someone else. We're sexual beings in and of ourselves. So I feel like it's important to say that sexual issues, just like, mental health issues and medical health issues, physical health issues and stuff. I mean, they're all part of us being humans and the human experience and stuff. So again, if you're watching right now, or you're watching the replay and you're struggling with these different things, please reach out. And Rakita specializes in sexual wellness and therapy, so she would be the go-to person, the perfect person to go to, especially for the state of Alaska, because I know that there's not a lot of Black providers in the state of Alaska to begin with. But when people are looking for these different specialties, it's hard to find. So I just wanted to say Rakita is available. She has openings. She takes Aetna and Premera Blue Cross Blue Shield. So if you're in Alaska and you feel like you are struggling with some of the stuff that we've been talking about, please reach out to her and make an appointment.
I wanted to just jump in real quick on that. I think that in regards to sexual issues, I would like to, take just a second and just kind of express that your therapist is not necessarily like, you know, a nun or, you know, somebody that cannot help you address your sexual issues. Your therapist should meet you where you're at
Mhm.
in regards to whatever topic that you are concerned with, that they have competency in.
Mhm.
And sex is, like you said, Winnie, it's such a broad, you know, spectrum
Yeah.
that, you know, when I can think of it, and I, you know, I think of sexual health, of course, I think of the queer community or the Black community. And then when Rakita mentioned like cancer and, you know, screenings and you know, sexual health in that way, I was like, yes, of course, like that is
Mhm.
something that is another very important part of the spectrum.
Mhm.
However, it's not going to get, you know, and then going back to what you said, being sexual beings, you know, and then, you know, we have people like Tiffany, who last summer got on to me for forgetting about the, you know, the asexual community, uh, in the queer community. However, you know, they have their emotions about what they're experiencing too. You have, you know, because of that situation, I've studied it, and then you have asexuality, you have aromantic,
Mhm.
you have, you know, all those different, you know, faucets in regards to sexual health. So
Mhm.
you still have to be mindful of that, but you can't really get anywhere if you don't at least attempt to
Right.
speak, you know, to your therapist about, you know, the taboo sex
Right.
or the taboo postpartum. You know, trust me, we have heard just about
Yeah.
everything. It's no, it's not a surprise to us any longer.
Yeah, absolutely. So I really feel like this was a really good summary that you just gave, Cartessa. And so in the minutes that we have left, I wanted to see if we can wrap up just in terms of talking about motherhood in general and how to balance the different roles and responsibilities and stuff, and how to take care of our mental health at the same time. So it is Mother's Day weekend, so I want to say happy Mother's Day to you ladies and to all the moms watching this live video or the replay. Happy Mother's Day to you. Happy Mother's Day to my mother and our mothers. We do have a lot of really awesome mothers in the Black community, and I just want to give a shout out to all of you out there. You are very much appreciated. And so I'll hand it over to you, Rakita. What sorts of, I guess, tips can you give us in terms of how to balance all of that?
So I've been meditating this week on imposter syndrome, and I love my umbrella. So under that umbrella is like mom guilt.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
The feeling of
How did we forget
inadequacy.
that?
Yeah. You're about to start preaching to me. Yes.
So that's come up for me, and just throughout the week, I've been thinking about, why do we feel inadequate? Why do we feel like we're not enough? And earlier we talked about how Black women have this superhero cape. And there's a book I'm reading. I can't even think of the author's name, but I can put it in the comments later on. But she talked about how we often have this superhero syndrome. And the superhero syndrome for Black women is the reason why we have emotional distress and, you know, emotional
Right.
dysregulation. I think that is very important that we meditate on that this Mother's Day weekend, because we don't have to do it all. Honestly, I talked about this earlier this week. Our grandparents, they had a village. Maybe even our parents had a village. And then now, being military spouses, active duty individuals, we have to carry the load. It's our two hands. And maybe if we have a partner, our partner's hands join in. But we were not built for this. We were built for community. So if you're feeling like you can't do it all, that is not true. You were not built to do it all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that
It's beautiful.
that is actually like right on, spot on. And
Beautiful.
yeah, that was very beautiful. And I think it also touches on the bigger picture of how we as human beings in general, not just moms, not just Black moms, but in general, we human beings, we weren't made to be alone. Like, we're not supposed to do any of this stuff by ourselves. We need help. And I think that it's about time that we recognize that asking for help and getting to a point where you recognize that you need help, that is a strength. That is not a weakness. We need help. We cannot do it alone. We need help. We all do. And like Cartessa mentioned, even as clinicians, we need our own help too. And we need to be able to have people, other therapists, life coaches, whoever you're able to talk to process stuff. We need that too, and we have our own communities that we need. And so, yeah, seek help. Don't try to do it all on your own. It's Mother's Day weekend. If you can, take some time to yourself. Self-care. Just yeah, that's what I want to say as far as that goes. So I also, oh my gosh, I almost forgot, Rakita, I wanted to bring up the blog that you write, Stay Booed Up. Is that what it's called?
Oh yes, the news.
Yeah, talk to me a little bit more about your blog. So Rakita has a blog, Cartessa, where she kind of shares like relationship tips and stuff. So yeah, before we get off, tell us about it.
So I'm really big on Black relationships because in the 1970s, our marriage rate was at 68%. Present day, we're at 28%. So there was a 40% drop. 40%. And I get teary-eyed just thinking about it because I am a firm believer that you do need a two-parent household, however that looks. I'm not judging, but like we already just said, you can't do it on your own. Mm-hmm. And Black women deserve love. We deserve love.
Yes.
Yeah.
And lots of it.
Right. And I don't want to hear that we are not getting married, we're not partnering up. That's kind of depressing to hear.
Absolutely.
So sorry.
Yeah. So if you can follow her blog, she shares a lot of really good tips and stuff. So as we get ready to end the conversation, do you ladies have any last minute thoughts or comments or anything like that you want to share? And I want to say,
Happy Mother's Day, guys.
Yes.
But I want to say thank you again to everyone who tuned in to the live video. Thank you for your comments and for interacting with us. Happy Mother's Day again to everyone out there. And Cartessa and I will be back next Saturday to talk about generational trauma. So if you can join us, please do. And so with that said, ladies, if you don't have anything else that you would like to add, we're going to go ahead and end our conversation for today.
No, it was great. Thank you guys so much. I loved it.
Yeah, me too. Bye. Thanks, Rakita.
Thank you.